Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Alliterations. Uh, Hope your 2025 has been going well so far. For January, now, I believe it's been a whole year since my first video about True Detective and King in Yellow. Anyways, been looking forward to reviewing this one for quite some time. This is the Prose Edda by, I'm going to say it wrong, I'm sure I am, Snorri Sturluson. uh, Prose Edda. Uh, this was, it's by far the oldest book I've talked about on this channel. First editions, translations, that sort of thing. I would date back to like 1350 or something like that. So by far the oldest thing I've talked about. Uh, but unfortunate, but just because it's old doesn't necessarily mean it's particularly interesting. Anything like that. So this is maybe going to be another. I'm not going to say it's a negative review, but this channel is about. This channel is all about reading literature and applying lessons learned from said literature to our lives. And this book, unfortunately, uh, while it should definitely be read and is a very important historical document, doesn't have a ton of reread value, I don't think, uh, nor does it have a lot of applicability uh, to it. It's more a historical document, which, as a historian, I'm all in favor of. But so basically, this book, Prose Edda, is Snorri Sturluson taking information, taking the old uh, Norse mythology, uh, old Norse legends, and putting them into book form. Uh, so we start with the creation of the world, uh, and with the serpent eating, or I'm sorry, not the serpent, the world, the wolf eating the world tree. Fenrir, I think, is the wolf. Um, I've enjoyed it. It was a good thing to read. A lot of the tales are somewhat familiar. A lot of it is there's a lot of similar mythology to this as there is in Roman Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, um, Native American mythologies. If you're familiar with that, with anything like that, certainly there are differences, but a lot of uh, these mythological tales come from the same basic uh, premise. Uh, you know, People trying to explore how the world had came to be, is continuing to be, and then how it will end. Trying to figure out answers for why it rains and why it doesn't. Why people suffer and why people don't. That those sorts of just very basic, fundamental human questions. And so, in that regard, uh, this was a very interesting book, coming from uh, a different place than what we we frequently hear from. It's not, like I said, it's not the Greek or Roman mythology that we hear so much about in politics or in literature or in the classics, Homer and people like that. Uh, and it's not Eastern mythology. It's not Buddha trying to figure out why the world the way it is the way it is. It's not Confucius trying to figure out world is the way it is, nothing like that. So I can appreciate that different aspect of it. Uh, and like I said, this is a very important book. Um, you know, and I think the main reason why it's important is because of the influence it had on pop culture today. Um, we see pop culture influenced by this book, everything from Tolkien, uh, in Hobbit, if you ever read that, about the dwarves, Thorin and Dori and Nori and Nori and all those people. Uh, a lot of those names are pulled directly from this. Some of those tales of seeking riches and the Lonely Mountain and stuff like that. They somewhat echo stories told in the Prose Edda. Likewise, the superhero character of Thor and Loki, um, that we've seen in Marvel movies over the last 15 years or so, uh, draw some inspiration from uh, the Prose Edda. Uh, so like I said, it has a staying power, and so that's one of the things that makes it valuable to read. It has a historical outlook on things that not often covered on this channel, for example, but not often covered elsewhere either. It's not very often we think about what the residents of 1300s Iceland, Norway, and places like that are doing. We don't think about them very often. And so, like I say, gives it an interesting perspective, and a different perspective, um, on them attempting to answer why the world is the way it is, which I think ultimately is one of the biggest questions that all good literature asks: is why? Why is the world the way it is? Why do some people suffer and some people don't? Why is there suffering in the first place? How can we live with suffering? How can we live without water? How can we live with too much water? That sort of idea. Uh, so there's a lot of that mythological element of this, which is just really interesting to read. Uh, the Like I said, the biggest thing is that I don't think it has tons of reread value. Obviously, if you're really into Norse mythology or trying to learn about mythological stories from different cultures, this is a good place to start. Uh, but it's broken up into very very small stories, by and large. The creation, uh, life in Valhalla, uh, modes of transportation among the gods, you know, biographies of a specific god or a specific figure in the mythological story, things like that. So it's in that way too. It's very short and easy to read. A lot of these sections are only 2, 3, 5 pages long, uh, but there's just not a ton of oomph, if that makes sense. So this maybe is more like encyclopedic instead of narrative. I think that's a better way of saying it. And that's the main reason why it's maybe doesn't have a ton of reread in that. Uh, but it should still be read, and it's still an important work. Uh, but it is a little bit dry. So that's the Prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson. Uh, I just want to say thank you again, everybody, for one wonderful year of alliterations. We covered a whole bunch bunch of different topics, a bunch of different books, and we're gonna keep on going. I have some other ideas for some other content. I also started Substack this year, this last month. So I'll link that down in the description. Let's go over there, subscribe. I talk about other books over there. There might be some overlap in the future, but right now I'm trying to keep. I am keeping them separate. Substack is more about history, whereas this channel is more about literature. So thank you all again. Please like and subscribe, share the video, subscribe, check out that Substack down below. I hope you all have a good day.